What's up, everyone? What's going on? Welcome on into Coffee with Brodes. Bear with me a little bit as I just recorded my Phillies thoughts on last night's game, which we'll talk about today, of course, on Coffee with Brodes. But yeah, I just uploaded the video as well, like the actual podcast. So it's processing as we speak. I'm just working out a couple details as I do it. So what's up, everyone? It's a Friday. Another week almost accomplished. We just got to get through today. We have our cups of coffee to get us through this mess. That's why coffee was invented, to get us through work days and whatnot. So look, we have a lot on the table. The NBA Finals last night. Phoenix gets it done again. I thought the Bucks made good adjustments, but they're struggling in certain areas. Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, not able to really get established. Phillies, big beatdown yesterday. Joe Girardi's a hot topic. And Danny Green and the nonsense that came out of his mouth. So we do have a lot on the table that I'm looking forward to getting into. Nolan wants to start off with Bamboo Brad last night. Yeah, Bamboo Brad was just ridiculous. I mean, there's no, there's nothing else you could say other than ridiculous. Opposite field, 0-2 count. I mean, it really didn't matter what he was given. He made it work, and Joe Girardi's decision ended up paying off. Now, my thing with that is I don't mind the thought process of the organization. I don't trust who's making the decisions, though. So it's not the decision that was made that I didn't feel comfortable about. It was who was making the decision that I didn't feel comfortable about. If the Tampa Bay Rays and Neander make that same exact move, I feel great about it. I think it's going to work. I feel like the Rays are going to win that baseball game, right? But when it comes to the Phillies making an analytical decision the way that they did to go heavy, heavy, heavy lefty, I don't disagree with what they're thinking. I don't have a track record of success of their thoughts working out tremendously. So I'm worried and concerned about who's making the decision, not why they made the decision, which I think is very fair. I got a lot of heat mile high yesterday because I talked about with the Toronto fans how, they have a nice fan base with the Raptors. It doesn't compare to the Sixers. And of course, everyone's like, you're an idiot. We have passionate fans here. We have yeah, I got it. I listen to Overdrive all the time. All right. I listen to O-Dog, Brian Hayes. I listen to all those guys. Great show. Noodles. Love it. It's Hockey Town. The way you feel about the Maple Leafs is how we feel about the 76ers. How you feel about the Toronto Raptors does not even compare to how we feel about the 76ers. So it's not the same. A nice fan base. Toronto has a nice fan base. And they are passionate. They are. It's a nice city. It's a sports city. I'm not disagreeing with that. It's just not on the level of Philadelphia when it comes to the 76ers. Yeah, on TSN. Yeah, I love them. I watch and listen all the time. I think they do a great job. Dusty says, Brodes, what's up, big dog? Let's win this series against the Sox and go on the All-Star break with a great note. I would love to tell you that that's going to happen. You got Vinny V on the bump, and you got Matt Moore on the bump. I just don't feel great about it. I don't. The way I described it, and it looks like my Phillies post-game pod from last night is going live as we speak. But last night, this team, they won the game to win the series. I'll use Ben Simmons as the example. When Ben Simmons goes 18, 12, and 10 now, what do we say? Who cares? It doesn't matter. We know who Ben Simmons is, right? That's the perfect way to describe where we are with Ben. He can go 22, 12, and 9 in a regular season game, and we would still say it doesn't matter because we know the truth about Ben Simmons. With this Phillies baseball team, they win a series. They win 2 series in a row. That's all great and dandy. You play 162. It's going to happen. I know what this team is. They are the second worst defensive team in all of baseball. You don't win baseball games if that's the case. You don't succeed if that's the case. So I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I'm just being realistic here. I know this Phillies team. We've seen them play 80 baseball games already. this 7-game sample size is not who they are. It's not who they are. It's just not. So that's where I'm kind of at with it. Wow, that's weird, Mile High. Out of all the favorite sports teams of a Toronto fan, the Maple Leafs rank last. That's pretty wild. That's actually pretty wild. All right, Peter says everyone on the Suns contributed. CP3 with 23, Ayton with 10. Yeah, but he had to get a little pep talk from Monty Williams at one point, which was just an outstanding mic'd up time for them to show on ESPN. Book was nasty. When he started hitting those threes and the fourth quarter came around, it was just absurd what he was putting on display. I'm so jealous that they have a guard that can shoot a basketball. I truly don't even know what that feels like. Crowder, Mikal Bridges was sensational for sure. 27 points. I am getting annoyed and bothered with the whole, we've been through this before, but I can't believe Brett Brown ruined this franchise. But you don't ask a plumber to be an electrician for you, right? A GM is a GM. A coach is a coach. The fact that the organization's making the coach the GM is a horrific thing to do as a franchise. And people are just forgetting the most important part of that trade. I can't believe we trade Mikal Bridges for Zhaire Smith. You didn't. You did not trade Mikal Bridges for Zhaire Smith. You traded Mikal Bridges for Zhaire Smith and an unprotected first-round draft pick from the Miami Heat. That's what you trade. You're leaving out the most important part of a trade, which is an unprotected first-round pick. You can't just pretend that's not part of it. You did not trade Bridges for Zhaire Smith. That was not the trade. That was not the trade. No, nope. That is not the trade. That's not the trade. It's not the trade. I like Mikal Bridges. He's an amazing not bench player. That's not right to say, but he's a nice contributing piece. He's not the guy. He's not the star, but he's a nice contributing piece. I remember watching this game last night and wow, Bridges has 20. Yeah, Tobias Harris averages 20. I like Mikal Bridges. Kid's a player. I think he's going to be great. He's only going to grow. He's very young. He's very raw. He had over 20 points. I get that. But Tobias averages what people were pumped up about Mikal Bridges having at one point in this game. Now, he ended up having a little more, but well, it's easy to say that today, Bird Bricks, after the game's over and he had one nice game in the NBA Finals. He's a good player. He's a good player, and I like it. But I want to read to you a thing that I saw on Crossing Broad. If I go to the Sixers here, and let's see if I can find it. It was basically breaking down the Mikal Bridges thing, because so much changes. People don't even remember what it was all about. Bridges was the best fit for the Sixers. Well, you don't really remember what they had at the time. In orderly to properly look at the trade, we have to first go back to 2018 and examine the Sixers. This was a young team coming off a second-round playoff exit and starting unit of Joel, Ben Simmons, Dario Saric, JJ, and Robert Covington. In truth, Covington was more experienced than Bridges at the time. If the Sixers were going to take another 3-and-D player, then Bridges would have been relegated to the bench during his rookie year. In Phoenix, Bridges started 56 games, and that would not have been the case here. You can't just pretend that does not matter. That absolutely matters. Now, Covington was moved for Jimmy Butler, and at the time when the Sixers did make that move, Bridges would have probably spent the rookie season on the bench. So basically, what he did in Phoenix, all the playing time he got in Phoenix, just would not have happened here. Robert Covington was here. Then you make the move. Jimmy Butler was here. So a man that started 56 games in Phoenix would have gotten significantly less time here in Philadelphia, where you're not even talking about the same play. You're probably talking about 6 points, 7 points, 18 minutes, 19 minutes. You're not talking about 30 minutes of time and getting the same contribution. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. Yeah, absolutely. One player is a deeper in his career than the other, for sure. for sure. I'm not saying that Mikal Bridges isn't going to grow and be a nice player in this league. I just think people are getting really overboard with it because they don't look at the context and the dialogue of the situation. Something happening in Phoenix, you can't apply that and say, well, you missed that in Philly. It wouldn't have played out the same exact way. You know? It's crazy. Brett Brown ruined this franchise. Oh, yeah, Brett Brown ruined this franchise. Like, you're a joke. Like, we're going back to Brett Brown ruining this franchise. Everyone's saying Brett Brown ruined it because of Zaire Smith. Okay, Brett Brown's ruined it because of how he coached here. Get lost if that's how you really feel about this. I mean, you clearly don't know how the organization was ran during that time. Clearly. If you think this organization is set back because of Zaire Smith and Mikal Bridges, shame on you. If you think that was the turning point in this franchise, was Mikal Bridges and Zaire Smith. With all due respect to Mikal Bridges, I think he's a nice player. I do. And he's going to be a very solid player. That's not setting your franchise back for years, Mikal Bridges. I mean, it's crazy. Well, it's not looking back with hindsight. It's applying logic. It's looking at the reality of the roster construction. This isn't hindsight. This is roster construction and what would have been because of like we're using facts on who was on the team to justify talking about how many minutes these players would have at the time. We need the dude. We need the and one dudes as our bench. I'm a little confused on what you're saying, Eric. I know Giannis is not a good shooter, but I love that he has no fear, and you can see that he's working on it. Forget shooting threes. He needs that mid-range down more consistently. Yeah, he had 42 points, and there's no doubt that he was not an issue yesterday in those regards. Drew Holiday stunk, and you could tell that they were trying to get him going early. Chris Middleton was brutal, and I mean brutal. Could not knock down any shot whatsoever. So he had a tough day at the office. I still do question, though, what does a player not shooting the basketball do for you? And 42 points is extremely impressive. If you get the supporting cast to step up, you're probably not having that thought as much as you are if you lose the game due to your supporting cast. So I understand that. It's not the same impact of Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons just can't shoot a basketball, won't shoot a basketball. It's not the same as Giannis's inability to knock down shots effectively. It's two different extremes for sure. But I still always, in the back of my mind, wonder what can you do fully with the player that doesn't shoot a basketball? I mean, 42 points is 42 points with or without shooting. I get it. So I'm not knocking Giannis by any means. It's just a thought. And maybe I have PTSD due to the 76ers. Yeah, it's people being reactionary to a basketball game last night. Now, look, Tobias Harris is overpaid, and Tobias Harris is getting a lot of money to be the player that, he's getting paid a lot of money for the player that he is. But in terms of sample size here, one individual averages 20 points per game. I don't know and that's not to knock Bridges. See, people take that the wrong way. Like, oh, you're knocking. No, I'm not. He's a good player. He's a good player. Those words are coming out of my mouth. Mikal Bridges is a good player. Very good player. He averages 13 points per game. He's a good player. He helps out. 3-and-D. Solid. For sure. No doubt. The team needs him. I'm just not going overboard. That's all. If Middleton had at least an average game last night, the Bucks would have won. He was just horrible. Yeah, he was. And the fact that the Suns were just knocking down threes, they got 23s. And you can look at the way that the Suns were driving baseline to open up a lot of those looks with the way the Bucks defense was collapsing in the paint. They got a lot of corner looks from it, and they knocked down, and everyone was doing their job. They were moving the basketball very well. They had that one sequence where there was about 10 passes before they even got the bucket, and there were some disruptive plays involved, but all those disruptive plays were being won by the Phoenix Suns. They were being won by the Suns. They got their goal accomplished by winning those battles, those one-on-one 50-50 balls, I should say, advantage the Phoenix Suns. And that's big. Jacob said, who had a better night last night, Bamboo Brad or Mikal Bridges? Both were extremely phenomenal. One's in an NBA Finals game. The other's in a regular season game against the Cubs. 3 home runs is unique anyway, as it is, though, no matter what type of game it is. I guess I'll have to say Mikal Bridges, though, because it's the NBA Finals. You're on the biggest stage, okay? You're in game 2 at home, 2-0, big time difference than 1-1 going back to Milwaukee. And Giannis is coming, scoring 20 points in the third quarter, came out of the second half with his hair on fire. I got to go NBA Finals, Mikal Bridges over a regular season game in the beginning stages of July against the Cubs who can't win. So I'll have to go with that. I'll have to go with that. Brendan, get the hell out of here, bro. You're killing me. Milwaukee lacks discipline and settle for jumpers a lot. They were killing it in the paint early. Well, early they were clearly establishing themselves attacking. Let's get going in the paint. Let's score our buckets there. Attack, attack, attack. The problem is, it's not that they were like settling too much. This is the NBA. When one team is knocking down shots at a pace that they're knocking them down at, you kind of have to counter. You can't just hit twos while the other team is knocking down 23. So at some point, you need to approach the game with, we need to hit threes too. We need to knock down threes as well. That's the nature of the game. That's why when Ben Simmons can't shoot a basketball, it's ridiculous. You need to counter the other. You can't, and I always question this with Joel, for how amazing Joel Embiid is. The fact that he works from the mid-range game and he starts going down low with the mid-range and he'll jab step you and he'll score with the jumper or he'll go to the rim while he's dominant. Can you win in today's NBA going 2 for 3, 2 for 3, 2 for 3? At some point, a team's going to explode on you, and you're not going to have enough firepower to approach the game and score enough points. So at some point, you gotta start making some jumpers. Got to start making some jumpers. Suns in 5. I mean, that's very raw to the moment. You go back to Milwaukee, and Milwaukee wins game 3, and they look differently because they're on their home floor. The narrative's going to change. Right now, the Suns look to be a better team right now, though. Your second and third options, your 2 and 3 guys that you paid if you're Milwaukee, they just underachieved. They've underachieved to this point. I told you, I've been very, very, very disappointed in Drew Holiday. Now, early, you saw the adjustments. Pick up Chris Paul. Pick up Chris Paul at the half-court line and force him to have to fight through some things, right? And the way that they utilized the screen and fighting over some screens and the way that they were just being pests early when you pick up them about half-court. They tried that, and at some point, the Suns just kind of exploded. The Suns kind of exploded. What would I do this offseason, NTH? I'd trade Ben Simmons. I would trade Ben Simmons. That's where it all begins. You trade Benjamin Simmons. You try and get Damian Lillard, option number 1. Option number 2, try and get Bradley Beal. My last option that's on the table, I'm getting Colin Sexton, Kevin Love, and a first-round pick from Cleveland. That's probably, if you're looking at your ceiling and your floor, what you would do at the lowest and what you do at the highest, Damian Lillard's your highest option. And the one is like the Malcolm Brogdon one that they declined. I'm not anti, but the thing is I'd have to have Daryl Morey do corresponding moves. At that point, I'm asking Daryl Morey to get Malcolm Brogdon and some. So not just with that trade, I'm saying in general throughout the process of trades, sign-in trades, this and that, where it would have to be Brogdon and then 2 pieces that make me feel comfortable compared to, because I heard a scenario where I'd have to do more research, but financially, could you get Kyle Lowry and Brogdon? So if you get Kyle Lowry, Brogdon, the Pacers first round pick involved too, and if that's what you get to team up with Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris and Seth Curry, is that something that you would feel is comfortable? Now, I'd have to do the research on everything. Don't quote me on if that all plays out and works out. But if that's something you do, would that be good enough? Would that make you feel comfortable? Would you trade Ben Simmons for that? And I think it's it's a question. It's a question that's worthy of having a conversation. Do I think Budenholzer is going to be the Bucks coach next season? I mean, they get to the NBA Finals. They do get to the NBA Finals, and while the Brooklyn Nets were injured, they went toe-to-toe with Kevin Durant in 7 games, and they accomplished their goal. I always look at process and taking steps in the right direction as a franchise. They're constantly going in the right direction, but it does seem like he's been there long enough, and there's enough work to look at over the years, there does seem to be something missing from Budenholzer, whether it's in-game adjustments or it's adjustments prior. I mean, I thought the Bucks did fine prior to the game. Game 2, you had to make serious adjustments from 1 to 2 with how you were defending Chris Paul, how you were going in that direction. And I thought they did fine in that area. Where I thought they lost, it was a little bit in-game at times where, is that the difference? Maybe. So there's enough of a sample size with Budenholzer to say there's probably a decision that could be made on him, even if they do lose the finals, because you've seen some of these flaws hold this team back down the road. Now, their players aren't playing well. Drew Holiday's missing wide open shots. He's passing up wide open shots. In game 1, he decided to not take a 3 and then dribble drive into traffic, which results in a turnover. Chris Middleton's not making shots. Is that a Budenholzer problem? Is that a problem with Budenholzer? No. Like, these guys are missing shots. So that's an element as well. You think about the way they utilized Lopez and PJ Tucker, and was that something that they could have flip-flopped? Possibly. So that's also in there. Yeah, but as much as I question some of the decisions made by Budenholzer, I go back to your top-tier players, or not your top-tier players, but your top-ranked players on your team did not show up. Who wins? What coach wins when Drew and Chris Middleton shoot that way? No coach. I don't care if you have the best coach in the world. You don't win. You wasted a Giannis performance of 42. You don't win that game. You just don't. Jacob asked this question. Who do I trust more with my life? Hector Neris in the 9th or Ben Simmons 3-pointers? Oh, I mean, come on. It's Hector Neris in the 9th. See, that's where we cross the line of disrespectful. Acting as if Hector Neris has never had success in this league and he's never been a solid closer. He's been a solid closer before. He has 83 saves for this Phillies organization for a reason. He's struggling right now, but it goes back to, you're giving Hector Neris 0. That's unfair. Ben Simmons deserves 0 because he's never been anything in that area. I mean, Hector Neris has had success closing and a decent amount of success too. People don't remember that, though, and it's not like it was a long time ago. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. So I think this is a disrespectful question to Hector Neris, where you're crossing the line of Hector Neris. Brodes, do you think Kyrie Irving, Ben Simmons trade would make sense? Yes. Would they do it? I don't know if they would do it because of the rivalry involved in what's happening throughout this time. But, yeah, I mean, you need a point guard. Kyrie Irving is one of the best point guards in basketball. Of course. Kyrie Irving and Joel Embiid, yeah. Now, do I love everything surrounding Kyrie Irving? No. I definitely don't love Ben Simmons' basketball game, though. I don't love everything surrounding Ben Simmons. Kyrie Irving's a bit of a nutcase, a bit of a head case. There's some injuries involved there. Would I trade Ben Simmons for one of the best point guards in basketball, though? Even though it comes with a package? Yeah, it's the NBA. What star doesn't come with a package? Right? I mean, James Harden doesn't come with a package if you were trading and making a monster trade for him? Damian Lillard, maybe he doesn't come with the full-on package of some of the others, but, I mean, in theory here, a lot of these players come with a package. Yeah, I would. Of course. It's an amazing point guard, of course. Brodes, will the Phillies win the division? No. What have you seen that screams this team's going to win a division? Hector Neris hasn't been good in 2 to 3 years. I mean, last year, the whole entire bullpen had one of the most historic things ever. So, it's hard to really look at that. But he had a 2.93 ERA in 2019. 2.93 with 28 saves, with an 83% save percentage. So, this year, a little wonky. Last year, the entire bullpen had the most historic bullpen, second worst in the history of baseball, which is just strange. 2.93 ERA back in 2019 with 28 saves on the board. You're talking about Ben Simmons hitting half-court shots. You don't see how this doesn't relate? You don't see how those two probably are not in the same category? I don't know. I think it's a little extreme. Simmons' floor is getting us to the playoffs, but isn't versatile enough to adjust and be anything late round to the playoffs. Sixers fan won championships, not just getting to the dance. Oh, no doubt. Oh, yeah, we know that's why we're We don't want him in town anymore. Anyone that thinks the trade is even possible, well, I don't think it's possible. I'm not saying that it would be something that would be done. I made that very clear from the beginning. You're trading with the Brooklyn Nets, a team that you're anticipating seeing for years to come in the Eastern Conference. Yeah, you don't just move pieces like that one-on-one and make those trades, right? I mean, it just doesn't happen. I'm just talking about the hypothetical that was brought up. Would you trade Ben for Kyrie? Yes, I would. Yes, I would. I don't think anyone's believing that that the Brooklyn Nets and the Sixers are picking up the phone to make that trade. It's just a hypothetical thrown in a coffee with bros chat. Okay. Carmen states, to give some love to fans in the stands again, it would be nice to see wins in every home game. 7 games, 2 starving fan bases. So, yeah, in the NBA Finals, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that would be incredible. Well, I do think that is it just me, or is it too extreme with how many times they're showing the fans? After every shot made, they have that 4K camera with fans banging and fans go. What are we doing here? What do we do? Why is it that? Why is it that? Am I missing something? Like, what am I missing here? Am I the only one to think that they're showing the fans too much after a shot? It's crazy. Watching Giannis, I get more pissed at Ben every time. Why does Ben play like that? He could be a Giannis type. Yeah, he could be even more than a Giannis type, to be honest with you. It's a mental thing. It's a mental side of the game, and it's never going to, if it hasn't clicked now, what makes you feel it's going to click? He's 25. He's literally 25 this month, if he's not already 25. His birthday's in July. I remember looking it up before. Ben Simmons' age. He turns July 20th, he turns 25. He's 25. He's not 21 years old anymore, 20 years old, 22, figuring out the NBA game. You've been in this league long enough to know that you need to shoot a basketball. You just need to shoot a basketball. It's crazy. Nick, that's amazing. Nick says, I've rewatched last night's Padres Grand Slam 20 times. Me too. Dude, it was insane. At first, I'll be honest, I saw the clip and I didn't really fully know who was hitting the bomb. It was like, wow, it's an 8-0 lead, and now it's 8-6 instantly. And then, first off, amazing call by the Padres. Camarena, my man is a AAA pitcher, gets caught up to the majors, and ends up hitting a grand slam off Max Scherzer to make it 8-6. I believe the count was 1-2. It was 1-2. I mean, it was an amazing call. It was a phenomenal thing. You see his parents, too. His parents are falling over in the. If you didn't see it, on Twitter, at Brodes81, I tweeted it out last night. Dude, I mean, you're telling me a pitcher hits a bomb like that of Max Scherzer? He is a relief pitcher, right? Amarina. Let's look up his stats. I'm pretty sure he's a relief pitcher, but it was the 4th inning. That's why I quit, because I didn't catch it. I mean, if it's 8-0 at that point, you'd imagine maybe the starter was yanked out of the game. But yeah, it's crazy. And they won 9-8, by the way. They won 9-8. So they came back. Max Scherzer threw like over 40 pitches in that inning. Yeah, Yu Darvish started the game. That's right. Because it was Yu Darvish versus Max Scherzer. That's right. I had a brain fart there. I knew that was the matchup before, because I was like, ooh, it's going to be a pitching matchup. And I totally lost track of it with the NBA Finals and the Phillies game. That's right. Yu Darvish went 3 innings, allowed 6 earned runs, 8 hits. They put in Camarena. My guy ends up hitting a grand slam off Max Scherzer. Oh, my God. What a fucking game that was. What a game that was. Amazing. I feel like the Padres relief pitcher grand slam is something we've only seen once in a lifetime. I mean, you do see crazy stuff like that happen, but the fact that it happens in Slam Diego, those fans are fucking awesome. Like, I know they went through hell, and they're not this insanely passionate fan base in San Diego, but they have a playoff atmosphere every night in that ballpark. Every night. And I go on TikTok every night. And I scroll till 5 a.m. every night. And I'm watching these chicks that are in San Diego, and they're in their Padres jersey, and the place is going bonkers, and they're getting all banged up, drinking Bud Lights, and they're just zooming in on Fernando Tatis Jr. And they make the caption like, I'm only here because of this guy, and this guy sets this city on fire. And I'm like, damn, that's so sick. That's so sick. That city is just bought in all in, slam Diego. They're third in the division. They're third in the division, and it's must watch, go to every night. Now, they're a good team, and just because they're third in the division, it doesn't mean that they're, like it's justifiable to be that packed and that pumped up every night for a team that has 52 wins to this point. But they're battling with a 54-win Dodger team, a 54-win Giants team. Like, they're battling for that. But it's amazing to see, and I'm jealous. Zach Eflin kind of underappreciated. He's been steady. I thought yesterday was impressive. 27 first pitches in the first inning, or 27 first pitches. 27 first inning pitches after a Didi Gregorius mishap in the field once again. Luckily, it did not cost them this time. And then the second inning, he threw 7 straight balls at one point and walked the opposing pitcher. Alzolay had a walk in 4 straight pitches. Then from there, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I mean, really? Damn. Damn, Zach Eflin. Damn. Do you think Embiid can be better than Giannis? I mean, you can make the argument that he already is. I mean, they're in the same tier. If they're in the same tier, it is what it is. They just play different styles, right? I mean, they both dominate games. They're both in that superstar echelon, and that's what it is. It's just a different way of dominating the game. One guy does it from the center position and works from the pretty much the block, and he can extend out to the 3-point line, and he can also go into the paint, but he settles in around that block area and goes to work. And Giannis is a different type of player where he'll attack and he'll lower his shoulder and he'll go to the rim and he'll do his spinorama and he'll explode, and two different styles. But to make it seem like Embiid's not on Giannis's level, it's a little foolish. No, I mean one individual is a center and dominates in a different way. That's all. That's all. Mike is a huge Bucks fan. Very disappointed in the Bucks. Really thought they would have made this a better series. Well, it's only 2 games and you're on the road. You got to see what happens at home first. How many series have you seen where you lose 2 games on the road, you come home and win 2 games at home? I've seen it happen all the time. A home court advantage is real. That's why last year with the bubble, you talk about the Miami Heat going on a ride and winning some basketball games and doing what they did. I'm not taking away on the run that they had last year, but to a degree, you play in front of nobody. It's an empty arena. Those fans matter. The importance of the crowd and the eruption and the craziness and the bonkersness and the counting to 10 if you're Giannis, all that. I mean, it matters. It impacts the game for sure. So, I wouldn't rule. I'm not ruling them out. Now, I don't have a dog in the fight, so I'm not emotionally as attached. So it's easier to be a little bit optimistic from the Bucks perspective if I'm not as dedicated and involved in that fandom as someone who is a Milwaukee Bucks fan. But yeah, look, I mean, you got to see what happens on your home floor first. There's a reason why home teams win a lot of games. There's a reason why you win more and you have a higher percentage of getting it done when you're in your own arena. So just give them a chance first to play at home before you start panicking too much. Yeah, look, it's okay to feel unsettled. It's okay to feel a little uncomfortable. You lose 1 game at home, and now you're talking about 3-1 going back to Phoenix, which would be a very disappointing thing to be. So I get that, right? You're 1 game away from that scenario, which would be panic mode. But let's just see what they do first. See what they do first. Bullpen, no hits allowed. What are you talking about last night? Yeah, I mean, it's an 8-0 ball game, 8-0 ball game. It's kind of hard to you're right. I guess with how bad they've been and how disturbing they've been to see that go down. Ranger Suarez late, haven't had a save opportunity in a while, so he found his way into a closer role, which is just absolutely hysterical. Get him to throw a bit, I guess. And Archie Bradley came in, and yeah, you're right. They didn't allow a hit. It just it's so hard for me to look at this Cubs team and really say that. Well, the Phillies are just a masterful team. They did have, though, here's some crazy stats for what they did in Chicago. 39 runs scored, 13 home runs, and 23 extra base hits in Chicago in this series, in this 4-game set, which is pretty impressive. In one of those games, the offense went quiet. The other games, though, they exploded. Now it's time for Fenway. But you get a DH, too. That DH is big. DH is real big. The Phillies are a perfect example of home field advantage. Well, yeah, I mean, in baseball, while it matters in playoffs and whatnot, the NBA impact, the NFL impact, the NBA impact, a little bit more. Hockey, you can win on the road easier in hockey than you can in the NBA. I even think in baseball, you can win on the road easier in baseball than you can in other sports. I know in the Phillies dilemma, I guess, or whatever you want to call this, they struggle on the road more so than they do at home, and there's something to that in a lot of teams. I mean, you look through it, yes, in all of sports, that is the case. In some sports, the impact is stronger. Basketball and football, the impact is stronger than hockey and baseball. Now, soccer, it's very large as well if you're into that. So, Michael just wants Dame. Who even comes close? What would this? Who even comes close to what the Sixers would need? I just want Dame. Who even comes close to what the Sixers would need? I'm a little confused on that. What does that mean? Who even comes close to what the Sixers would need? I don't know what that means. Am I reading that wrong? Carmen, sorry I tuned in late. Did you discuss your pod rant? What impact Green's dumbass comments? I didn't really get into it too much yet today. The Danny Green comments conversation hasn't really picked up during Coffee with Brodes, but it can now. I just think it's foolish. It's absolutely foolish for him to make those statements. If you go along the lines of we overlooked our opponent, but the fans didn't support us. I'm sorry, what? You overlooked your opponent in the Atlanta Hawks. The fans didn't support. It's not our job to just cheer you on no matter what. That's not our job. I go back to the simple question is what is the job of a fan? That's how I analyze this drama of Danny Green. Because Danny Green thinks the job of a fan is to just cheer no matter what. That's not the job of a fan. That's not the job of a fan. The job of a fan is to hold you accountable. We pour our emotion, our money, and our time into watching you compete. Watching you compete. I did not say watching you win. And that's saying a lot. Look, you obviously want to win, and we don't say that losing is fine. But we don't bash Joel and Tobias as much as we bash Ben because they try, like they played the game of basketball and failed. We can live with that. We're going to be upset and disappointed, and yeah, we'll talk about Joel Embiid's turnovers and Tobias Harris missing some layups, but that's just normal basketball conversation. We're not running Joel and Tobias out of town for competing and leaving everything out there on the floor and coming up short. Ben Simmons did not compete. Ben Simmons did not play the game of basketball. That we can't support. When you do that, we can't support that. And it's okay to not support that. Our job is not to cheer even if you're failing and losing miserably. And doing it in ways where you're playing 4-on-5. It's 5 years of not shooting a basketball. It's not our fault. It's really not our fault. Yeah, I don't think Danny Green's going to come back. I really don't. At this point, I think that was telling. And it's crazy. If he does come back, because I know we mentioned that he knows that the Sixers are interested, how the fans would react to his presence. What surprises me, and I know he's just supporting his teammates. That's the thing. He's just supporting Ben Simmons. But, dude, Danny, you don't get it. And I thought Danny did. I guess that's the surprising thing. I thought Danny Green understood. He's a smart guy. He's a very intelligent human being. I would think he would understand. And he just, quite frankly, doesn't have a pulse on the fan base, which is a little shocking. Or, quite frankly, he doesn't care. Maybe he just doesn't give a shit, and all he cares about is his teammate, which, look, I mean, there's an element to that, which is good for you. You're a teammate. Stick to that, and you want to support Ben. But I'll go back to, wow, Ben Simmons must be softer than we even thought he was if he needs this type of coddling, where everyone wipes his ass and I guess I should say tushy. Do I even go tushy? I mean, that makes it even softer. And I'm just laughing, talking about, like, when was the last time I ever used the word tushy? Never. But when you think about Ben, like, I can't say people wipe his ass. That's too normal. They wipe his tushy. That's what they do. And it's soft and softer and softer and softer and softer and softer and softer every damn time. It's crazy. It's crazy. Well, I'm not saying it's easy to live in stardom here in this world, in this generation of social media, because it's not. It's not. You get a lot of criticism. You get a lot of heat, but it's also part of it. You want to be an NBA player? You look at everything involved, the pros and the cons, money, fame, And you can look at maybe the fame as a negative. Maybe that is because some people don't love it. But Ben's the guy that likes that. There's guys that don't. They like to hide behind the scenes. They like to be quiet. Ben ain't like that. Ben likes Kendall Jenner. Ben likes the big name people. Ben loves LA. Ben loves being a superstar. Ben loves being a famous individual. Ben loves the stardom. He loves the light shined on his face. That's part of it. So social media presence and getting destroyed by social media, that's part of, you sign up for that. That's part of that. And I'm not talking about the extremists. They do not count into this. I'm not talking about the people that go overboard. I'm talking about the 90% of the majority of people that are actual normal sports fans who give normal structural criticism about the sport of basketball. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Well, it doesn't matter if he wants out anyway, because there's no reason to tick off a fan. He's a UFA. So ticking off the fan base while walking away isn't very Danny Green-like. It's not Alec Burks, right? If Alec Burks makes a statement like that and heads to New York, okay, I mean, it's Alec Burks. I mean, I could see maybe that coming out of him. If it's some other, like Glenn Robinson III, after he doesn't know his role, exits town, it's probably the same thing, right? Here, it's Danny Green. He's a respected veteran. So it's strange. Strange. Mike, it's interesting you bring up the Eagles here because I've had the itch to talk Eagles. I actually have it written down on my calendar over here at some point. It says Eagles pod. I want to check in. I want to check in on the Birds. I started talking about them a little bit on the Fanatic. I asked the question, what's one thing that you're most excited about when thinking about the Philadelphia Eagles season starting? And I just think it's time to maybe check in a little bit on the Philadelphia Eagles, even though it's not like there's that much going on. I just feel it's been Sixers, it's been Ben Simmons, it's been the Phillies frustration. You do have Flyers fans, we are going to have a lot to talk about with the expansion draft. We're going to have a lot to talk about in the upcoming weeks here with some specific moves that are going to be made with the franchise. So there is some of that coming along. But I'm excited for some Eagles conversation, some Flyers conversation, just something to change it up a bit as we're hitting that territory of the summer, right? Like, I've been doing this for a while now. And you always know July is going to die out a bit in the sports world. And look, I mean, now you even have the NBA Finals in play this late, which makes it even crazier that it's still this dead. But yeah, I mean, you prepare for this. But when it always happens, you prepare for it, but you forget how brutal it is until you're in it. This is the summer. You're into the weakest part of the sports calendar, just reality of it. But Mike wants to know how the Eagles are going to do. He loves his Packers, but always like Jalen Hurts. I mean, there's so many question marks. It's hard to answer that question. This coach has never called plays. You have the youngest coaching staff in all of football. Your quarterback played 4 games last year, and Greg Cosell had some interesting things to say about his tape on the Inside the Birds podcast that just dropped. So if you have not checked that out, make sure you check that out with Jeff Mosher and Adam Kaplan, and Greg Cosell joined. Jonathan Gannon, defensive coordinator. You just don't know about what he's going to bring to the table. Although I'm intrigued by him because a lot of teams wanted Jonathan Gannon. He was on the list of a lot of teams for defensive coordinator as an upgrade. So we'll see how that works out. And they still have a decent defensive line. And there's going to be a new scheme implemented other than the Jim Schwartz scheme, which I was okay with. But it's time for something new. There's a billion question marks that we don't know the answers to. So I don't know the answer to that question, unfortunately. Do you think Ben Simmons is aware of how badly he impacted the team? No, he does not. Now, I don't think it's because he's just focused on playing Warzone. Like, I think that the whole Call of Duty thing is that's just going overboard. Like, he doesn't care about basketball because all he cares about is video games or watching Wimbledon or whatever. Like, I don't think that that's true, but I do think he's oblivious. I think he's oblivious to the moment. I think he's oblivious to where he's at in his career. I just don't think he gets it. I don't think he gets it. And I don't think that's because of Warzone, but I don't truly, like, he looks at this as other things went wrong too. Tobias was bad with some layups. Joel had turnovers. Doc Rivers he probably thought Doc Rivers taking him out of the game was actually worse for the basketball team instead of better for the basketball team, which is an issue. The fact that he doesn't see that, the fact that he doesn't recognize that. So I do believe that there's a bit of a lack of a sense of urgency to understand where he's at, because I'm an all-star, because I'm a defensive player of the year candidate, and I should have won it this year, but they gave it to Rudy Gobert. That's the way he thinks. That's the way his brain goes. But that's the wrong way to think, Ben. It's the wrong way to think. Why does everyone baby him? I guess they know something we don't know, clearly. Maybe it was the way that he was grown up. Maybe it was the way that his parents raised him, and because he's always the best player. He's always been the best player. He's always been the bigger player. He's always been a dominating force. But once you go to the NBA, everyone's that skilled. Everyone's skilled in their own right. Everyone has that talent. Everyone's that big. Everyone's that thick. Everyone's that versatile, right? I mean, you talk about positionless basketball for a reason now, because you have all these special athletes that can do so much. They can stretch the floor. They can rebound. They can shoot. They can dribble, drive. They can handle the basketball. Now, some better than others, but there's a reason why it's become positionless, because 1 through 5 can do so many different things. Ben, you can't get away with only doing one. You can't get away with just facilitating. That's not good enough anymore. You're in the NBA where people can match that intensity. So he got away with it forever. And it was, you don't have to do this. You don't have to do this. Ben, you're so good at this. You're so good at that. You're so good at this part of the game. And then after so many years of that being what was informed to him, at some point, it's like, don't worry about what other people are telling you to do, because you've had success doing this forever. That's all great and dandy. That stops at some point. Now you have to take that next step, and he's unwilling to take that next step. Who do I want the Phillies to draft this Sunday? I have been. So I haven't gone heavy in the prospects too much. I am starting that process, though. I am starting that process of looking through a little bit more. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I have all the knowledge in the world of some of these prospects, but I am starting to pick up a little bit of that. So I need I'm probably going to dive a little bit deeper tonight and Saturday, more so than I am, or more so than I have. But I've started to just tinker around a bit with, excuse me, with some prospects, but not enough to sit here and tell you I got a full list of players. Yeah, I did see a lot on some local players. You always get that though around this time of year on some local guys, for sure. When you have a 6'10" point guard who is afraid to score and was getting so many comparisons to LeBron, you would be pretty mad too. Yeah, and you know, like some go with, well, maybe he was just not properly analyzed. Like, why would you put Ben Simmons in the category of LeBron? Well, I mean, think about LeBron early on. Like, Ben facilitates the way LeBron facilitated. LeBron just became a phenomenal shooter and worked on his game and really did establish himself as someone who can shoot from three. You know what's crazy? Those fadeaways where his back is to the basket and he spins 2 or 3 times and then he fades away with a with a mid-range jumper that hits nothing but the back of the iron and goes in beautifully. I mean, it's just crazy and absurd that that's considered good shot selection. Where if I tried that at the local gym, I'd be told never to shoot the basketball again and pass that one up. But LeBron is like, he established himself as a good shooter, not the free throw line, but in other areas. I mean, you feel confident when he lets it rock and when he lets it fly. He has the makeup, the skill set, and he has the physicality and the body frame to be the way that LeBron came in not able to shoot. LeBron came in as a poor shooter and a facilitator first, and then he grew into this amazing player. Now, not that I thought Ben Simmons would grow to where LeBron is, but that style of player, he has the physical makeup, which you can't teach. You either have it or you don't have it. You're born that way at 6'10" with that body frame, or you're not born that way. 6'10" with that body frame and that facilitating mindset. LeBron just took the proper necessary steps to grow, and Ben didn't. So it wasn't wrong analyzing Ben as a player that could be in that type of way. He just didn't execute it himself. The path to get there was there. He didn't take that path. That's the difference. So saying Ben Simmons could be the next LeBron, that's not an asinine statement. That's not a wrong statement. That's not a bad assessment. It was there to be that. You can't say that about every player. Furkan Korkmaz, Seth Curry, Danny Green, and all these other players, they don't have the path to be LeBron on that style of play. Ben did. Just didn't do it. Just didn't do it. The city kills Ben Simmons, but loves some Hoskins, Kingery, and others. I think people are very frustrated with Rhys Hoskins and want him traded, even though he has 20 home runs right now and can clearly hit the baseball. Nobody supports Scott King. So I don't know what city you're in. And by the way, nobody expected Scott Kingery to be the next best player ever in the history of MLB. Not that we thought that for Ben Simmons, but we saw him as an upper echelon talent where you talk about the top 5 players in the league and he'd be there. I don't think anybody thought about that with Scott Kingery. Maybe more out of Rhys Hoskins because of how he came onto the scene, and the month that he had was just outrageous. But I don't even know where you're coming with that one. That one's a little crazy to me. Do I think Joel Embiid could be the greatest Sixer of all time? Yeah, he might even be now, even without a championship. Allen Iverson didn't win a championship, and we look at him as, the top echelon. Now, you got Dr. J and, a lot of the older guys who witnessed them throughout their prime and those runs would say probably them over Allen Iverson. I grew up in the Allen Iverson era, so it's a little bit different for me. But with Joel Embiid, I mean, yeah, you can make the argument, even if he doesn't win a championship, that he's the best Sixer of all time, for sure. Rumor is the Sixers declined Simmons for Brogdon. Well, I think it's just Daryl Morey trying to set the market, trying to make it known, look, we're not settling for a 20-point per game scorer guard when we can try and go get Damian Lillard. Now, ultimately, they might end up needing that towards the end. If they strike out on Dame, if they strike out on Bradley Beal, if they strike out on some of these players, you might result back into a Brogdon. Like, these teams are going to do that trade no matter what. If you decline and then 3 months later you dangle Ben Simmons in front of their face again, they're going to pounce on that opportunity. So those trades aren't going anywhere. Those 20-point per game combo guards and point guard Sexton and Brogdon and anybody like that, they're not going anywhere. Teams would be willing to make that trade again in a couple of months if Daryl Morey says no now to try and accomplish the goal of Damian Lillard or Bradley Beal. So I think it's just Daryl Morey somewhat establishing himself in the market more so than anything else. See, now you don't do that right away, the Atlantic Files, because like I said, like that might be there. And if it's not, fine, you can figure something else out. But you don't just pass up on the opportunity of Dame and Bradley Beal to get those type of trade. Like, you'll find those guys. You will find those type of players. You can get those type of moves throughout, dangling Ben Simmons later on. What you can't get is Damian Lillard. So I'll take my chance swinging and missing on a Bradley Beal, on a Damian Lillard, and then from there assess the situation over just pouncing on a trade like that instantly and not even giving yourself a chance to fight for a superstar like Damian Lillard. I don't even know where Scott Kingery is, to be honest with you. I have no idea where Scott Kingery is. What would it take to get it? Yeah, what? You wouldn't give up Matisse Thybulle and Tyrese Maxey for Damian Lillard, a dude who could drop 50, and a guy that is literally labeled Dame time, which is everything that Ben Simmons isn't. You wouldn't give up Matisse Thybulle and Tyrese Maxey? I'll drive him to the airport. Drive him to the airport. That's asinine. 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 Drive him to the airport. I'm in Philly, my man. The city loves trash players and get rid of good ones. You need glasses, kid. I mean, you just seem like a loser to me. I'm not even going to give you the time of day. I don't know who talks like that, but the home run derby got messed up this year. Why do you say that? I think it's going to be amazing. I think the home run derby is going to be fantastic. Ohtani and Joey Gallo and all these studs hitting in Coors Field. Sign me up. Sign me up. No, I know you, man. If it took just them, well, no. Ben Simmons, first-round picks, Tyrese Maxey, Matisse Thybulle, that's the package any day of the week. I'm driving all of them. I'll make Ben Simmons sit in the middle. I'll have Tyrese Maxey up front in the driver's seat. I'll Ben Simmons squeezed in the middle in between all the clothes and all of their luggage where he could barely move in the back seat. And I'll be saying, elbow in, and I'll have him do this. Elbow in the whole time, the whole drive from my place or wherever I picked him up from to the airport, elbow in. I just have him sitting there like this, just with his elbow in. Although, why would I give a shit about his elbow anymore if he's not going to be here in this city? I guess that's fine. Predictions of the farthest hit ball, 6,000 feet. 6,000 feet. I would feel sorry for Ben if he wasn't so arrogant. Yeah, I mean, he definitely is arrogant. There's no doubt about it. And there's a smugness to him that if you're going to be smug, just back it up. That's all. I'm okay with being smug. So many guys are cocky, confident, smug. Tom Brady. Tom Brady sure is. Aaron Rodgers sure is. The greats have that. If you don't think Michael Jordan was arrogant? Of course he was. I'm not anti-arrogant. You just got to back it up. That's all. I mean, you got to provide us something here. You can't just fold and crack and become a nobody. Ben Simmons became a nobody. Becomes a nobody. What are the chances we get Dame? I mean, he's unhappy in Portland, and you have Daryl Morey, who's made some big moves before. That's what I got. You know, I think there's a chance. There's a chance. All right, with that being said, everyone, I want to thank you so much. Oh, we got a Scott Kingery update. According to Billy, Scott Kingery is currently batting 181 in AAA with 598 OPS. My God, that is bad. That is bad. Look, they could say whatever they want in a podcast or whatever. A lot of that could be just because of the way it looks. I mean, you say things all you want, but it doesn't like he's not going to come out and just say like I hate. He's not that type of person. Some superstars will. Some superstars will come out and say I hate it here. Get me out. I don't want to be here. This is a disaster. Damian Lillard's more of a respectful guy than that. Loves Portland. Been around forever. Just because he says that on a show, it does not mean that I fully believe it. It could just be player speak, coach speak. That type of feel to it where he might say whatever he says, but yeah, I don't necessarily fully believe it. I don't fully believe it at all. Yes. So that is in reference to Carmen here talking about sorry, I'm just gonna put that idiot blocked nice and easy for me. Yeah, I just don't believe it. That's all. I don't believe what he says just because he says it. I don't believe it. So what hours am I working this weekend? Okay, real quick before I head out of here. The Fanatic, 7 to 10 p.m. Saturday, 4 to 8 p.m. Sunday. So tune in to 97.5 The Fanatic this weekend, 7 to 10 p.m. Saturday, 4 to 8 p.m. Sunday. We have UFC as well on Saturday night to see Conor McGregor and Poirier for round 3. So I'm stoked for that. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today on Coffee with Brodes. And